7 seditious facts about gravity. All of us studied the law of universal gravitation at school. But what do we really know about gravity, besides the information that school teachers put into our heads? Let's update our knowledge. 1. The law of universal gravitation. Everyone knows the famous parable of the apple which fell on Newton's head. But the fact is that Newton did not discover the law of universal gravitation, since this law is simply absent in his book, Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy. There is no formula, no formulation in this work which anyone can check up. Moreover, the first mention of the gravitational constant appears only in the 19th century, and accordingly, the formula could not appear earlier. By the way, the coefficient g, which reduces the result of calculations by 600 billion times, has no physical meaning and was introduced to conceal contradictions. Of all the known fundamental constants, it is the numerical value of the gravitational constant that is determined with the least accuracy, although the importance of this quantity cannot be overestimated. All attempts to clarify the exact value of this constant were unsuccessful, and all measurements remained in too wide of a range of possible values. The fact that the accuracy of the numerical value of the gravitational constant still does not exceed 1 to 5,000 was defined by the editor of the journal Nature as a shame stain on the face of physics. In the early 80s, Frank Stacey and his colleagues measured this constant in deep mines and wells in Australia, and the value which he obtained turned out to be about 1% higher than the official value accepted at present time. 2. Laboratory confirmations. It is believed that Cavendish was the first to demonstrate gravitational attraction at laboratory blockheads using torsion balance, a horizontal rocker with weights at the ends suspended on a thin string. The yoke could turn on a thin wire. According to the official version, Cavendish brought a pair of 158 kilogram blanks from opposite sides to the weights of the rocker, and the rocker turned at a small angle. However, the method of the experiment was incorrect, and the results were rigged. Cavendish reworked and tuned the installation for a long time to fit the results of the average density of the Earth expressed by Newton. The method of the experiment itself provided for the movement of the blanks several times, and the reason for the rotation of the rocker arm was micro-vibration from the movement of the blanks which were transmitted to the suspension. This is confirmed by the fact that such a simple installation of the 17th century would have to stand, if not in every school, then at least in the physical faculties of universities for educational purposes, to show students in practice the result of the law of universal gravitation. However, the installation of Cavendish is not used in the curriculum, and school children and students believe in the world that the two blanks attract each other. 3. Oddities of the Moon. If we substitute reference data on the Earth, Moon, and Sun into the formula of the law of universal gravitation, then at the moment when the Moon flies between the Earth and the Sun, for example at the time of a solar eclipse, the force of gravitation between the Sun and the Moon is more than 2 times higher than that between the Earth and the Moon. According to the formula, the Moon would have to leave the orbit of the Earth and begin to rotate around the Sun. The Moon, among other things, does not manifest its gravitation properties in relation to the Earth. The Earth-Moon pair does not move around a common center of mass, as it would have been according to the law of universal gravitation, and the Earth's ellipsoid orbit does not become zigzag-like despite this law. Moreover, the parameters of the orbit of the Moon itself do not remain constant. The orbit evolves according to scientific terminology, and it does this despite the law of universal gravitation. As you say, even pupils know about ocean tides on Earth, which occur because of the gravitation of water to the Sun and the Moon. According to the theory, the Moon's gravitation forms a tidal ellipsoid in the ocean with 2 tidal humps, which move along the surface of the Earth due to the daily rotation. However, practice shows the absurdity of these theories. After all, according to them, a tidal hump with a height of 1 meter should move from the Pacific to the Atlantic Ocean through the Drake Strait in 6 hours. Since water is incompressible, the mass of water would raise the level to a height of about 10 meters, which does not occur in practice. In practice, tidal phenomena occur autonomously in areas of 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers. Laplace was also amazed at the paradox. Why the high water in the seaports of France comes consistently, although, according to the tidal ellipsoid concept, it should occur simultaneously there. 4. Gravity measurements. The principle of measurement of gravity is simple. Gravimeters measure vertical components, and the deflection of the plumb shows horizontal components. The first attempt to test the theory of mass was undertaken by the British in the middle of the 18th century on the shores of the Indian Ocean, where, on the one hand, there is the highest Himalayan stone ridge in the world, and on the other hand, the ocean cup filled with much less massive water. But alas, the plummet towards the Himalayas does not deviate. Moreover, supersensitive devices, gravimeters, do not detect differences in the gravity of the test body at the same height, both above massive mountains and over less solid seas of a kilometer depth. To save the established theory, scientists came up with an idea to support it. The reason for this isostasy is that more solid rocks are located under the seas, and soft grounds are under the mountains, and their density is exactly the same to fit. It was also empirically found that gravimeters in deep mines show gravity that does not decrease with depth. It continues to grow, being dependent only on the square of the distance to the center of the Earth. There are natural anomalies of gravity, which also do not find any clear explanation from the official science. Here are such a few examples.
And look at this car. The driver stops, puts the car into neutral, and it starts to roll up the hill.
The absence of gravity in small space bodies. The independence of gravity from matter is confirmed by the fact that, with the rarest exception, small bodies of the solar system have no gravitational pull capacity. With the exception of the Moon and Titan, more than 6 dozen satellites of planets show no signs of their own gravity. This has been proven by both indirect and direct measurements. For example, since 2004, the Cassini orbiter in the vicinity of Saturn flies near its satellites from time to time, but there are no changes in the probe velocity. A geyser on the 6th largest satellite of Saturn was discovered with the help of the Cassini orbiter. What physical processes must occur on a cosmic piece of ice so that jets of steam fly into space? For the same reason, Titan, which is Saturn's largest satellite, has a gas tail as a result of atmospheric runoff. Asteroids' satellites predicted by theory have not been found despite their huge number. And in all reports of double or twin asteroids, which supposedly rotate around a common center of mass, there was no evidence of the circulation of these pairs. The companions happen to be nearby, moving along quasi-synchronous orbits around the Sun. Attempts made to put artificial satellites into asteroid orbit ended in failure. The NEAR probe can be an example of this, which the Americans pushed to the Eros asteroid, or the Hayabusa, which the Japanese sent to the Atakawa asteroid. 6. Alternative studies. There are a large number of alternative studies with impressive results in the field of antigravity, which fundamentally refute the theoretical calculations of official science. Few people know that Viktor Stepanovich Grebennikov, a Siberian entomologist who studied the effect of abdominal structures of insects, described the phenomena of antigravity in insects in his book, My World. Scientists have long known that massive insects, such as the cockchafer, fly rather despite the laws of gravity, not due to them. Moreover, on the basis of his research, Grebennikov created an anti-gravity platform. Viktor Stepanovich died under rather strange circumstances, and his workings were partially lost. However, some of the prototype of the anti-gravity platform was preserved and can be seen in the Grebennikov Museum in Novosibirsk. Another practical application of anti-gravity can be seen in Homestead, Florida, where there is a strange structure of coral monolithic blocks, which people called Coral Castle. It was built by a native of Latvia, Edward Linskalnin, in the first half of the 20th century. This slender physique man had no tools. He did not even have a car and any equipment at all. He did not use electricity at all. Also, because of its absence, and nevertheless, somehow descended to the ocean, where he hewed out multi-ton stone blocks and somehow delivered them to his site, laid out with perfect accuracy. After the death of Edward, scientists began to study carefully his creation. For the sake of experiment, a powerful bulldozer was driven and an attempt was made to move one of the 30-ton Coral Castle blocks. The bulldozer roared, skidded, but did not move the huge stone. A strange device was found inside the castle, which scientists called a DC generator. It was a massive construction with many metal parts. On the outside of this device, 240 permanent bar magnets were embedded. But in fact, the way how Edward Linskalnin actually forced the many-tonned blocks to move still remains a mystery. Some researchers analyze the vibrational nature of anti-gravity. This effect is clearly represented in modern experience, where droplets hang in the air due to acoustic levitation. Here we see how it is possible to confidently hold drops of liquid in the air with the help of sound of a certain frequency. But the effect, which at first glance is easily explained by the principle of the gyroscope, but even such a simple experience for the most part contradicts gravity in its modern sense. Studies of John Searle are known, in whose hands unusual generators came to life, revolved and produced energy. Discs with a diameter of 0.5 meter to 10 meters were lifted into the air and made controlled flights from London to Cornwall and back. The professor's experiments were repeated in Russia, the USA, and Taiwan. In Russia, for example, in 1999, a patent application for a device for generating mechanical energy was registered. Vladimir Vitalyevich Roshin and Sergei Mikhailovich Godin, in fact, replicated the Searle effect generator, a generator for the Searle effect, and conducted a number of studies with it. The result was a statement: you can get 7 kilowatts of electricity without cost, and the rotating generator lost weight up to 40%. Searle's first laboratory equipment was transported to an unknown destination while he was in prison. The installation of Godin and Rushkin have disappeared. All publications about it, with the exception of the application for the invention, have disappeared as well. 7. Gravity and the theory of relativity. According to modern wrong ideas, the speed of light is finite. As a result, we see distant objects not where they are located at the moment, but at the point from which the beam of light we saw started. But how fast does gravity spread? After analyzing the data accumulated by that time, Laplace found that gravity spreads faster than light by at least 7 orders of magnitude. Modern measurements for receiving pulses of pulsars push the speed of propagation of gravity even further, at least 10 orders of magnitude faster than the speed of light. Thus, experimental studies are in contradiction with the general theory of relativity, on which official science still relies despite its complete inconsistency. In fact, orthodox science signed in its own impotence when it introduced the so-called dark matter into scientific circulation. Then it was discovered that spiral galaxies rotate as a whole, which contradicts to Kepler's law. Contrary to the law of universal gravity, stars on the periphery rotate too fast and should have scattered under the action of centrifugal forces. In this case, all sorts of searches for dark matter particles using the most sensitive devices did not lead to anything. But at the beginning of the last century, scientists knew that space around us is not empty. It is all completely filled with many different matters, or primary matter, in the terminology of the concept of the heterogeneous universe. At that time, this primary matter was called ether, and convincing evidence of its existence was obtained. For example, the well-known experiments of Dayton Miller described in the article Theory of the Universe and Objective Reality. However, at a certain point, the world scientific thought was deliberately taken to the wrong way, and that is why there is still no intelligible scientific explanation of the nature of gravity. In the near future, detailed material on this topic will be released on our channel. Therefore, we recommend to set up notifications in order not to miss the latest videos. See you on our channel.